Chill here with siriustalesmoon. And this is Venus Day, Venus night. Venus is about to close a cycle with Pluto, and Sun is about to ingress to Aquarius. Well, Venus is ruling the ascendant at 28 degrees Libra, and the Sun ruling the midheaven at 1 degree Leo. What I'm getting is two energy readings that are not entirely distinct. One is that somebody has been occupying themselves with another person that disappeared from their lives, and that person is, and I'm getting that person was a woman. It's a woman who walked out continuously, even from being mistreated, and that person knew that she was a feminist, and feminism meant sexual sovereignty. It meant zero rape society. Of whichever way she was phrasing that, that person knew that this person was about zero rape society, that they were about a love that is actually loving. And that perhaps pained them because they weren't able to be with that person or whatever. Okay, like I'm not saying they necessarily wanted that person as a partner, but something here triggered them because that person was not going to be in a relationship. It could be somebody's friend, but he was not going to be in a relationship with people who have even an ounce of rape culture in their energy. And that person may have gone to sex workers. That person may have done things um, that they presented was in the past, or that was their first experience, let's say, that was mitigated by some masonry or fraternity. Um, but as that woman disappeared, it could be the story of many women, by the way, because we are, what's been here before was Saturn and Jupiter, and that was around COVID. What's been here before was Neptune, and some women were even choosing career over even thinking about relationships. Um, and what I'm getting is that something had confronted this person that walked out with the fact that somebody's been so occupied with trying to paint a picture that doesn't stand in modern times. Why were they doing that? I don't know. Were they participating in a society that does that to women? I don't know. But the fact is that um, the troubles that went by, let's say, whether it was studies or work or residence, and they had to do with an outdated society that doesn't have a zero rape standard of living um, before, after, or during any type of marriage. And that person was participating. And here is the thing. Um, that reality collapses because the more that they were causing harm to that person that walked away. And again, I don't know the story. Okay, I'm not pretending to know two sides of the story. Venus Pluto is the woman's power here. Okay, but definitely they were doing something that could have bordered with rape, whether it was spiritual, whether it was something that could cause that person to be raped. And now first of all, they are being seen as that, okay, to whichever level of agency they have in those rape-based societies, they are seen as a part of the rape-based societies. Okay, and they should consider their phrasing, their naming, their thinking, their, I don't know, but definitely the actions, whatever is permeating to the reality of these women that walked away, is that these men and the women that were in power with them are seen as a part of a rape-based society, as traffickers. Um, as for the women, they just had to deal with survival fundamental stuff. Now, there is a bigger timeline where there was a thought that to move the financial reality of women backwards would create something, and it created the opposite. And what it created was such fierceness about feminism. Everywhere I go, white women, BIPOC women, old women, young women, American women, indigenous women, all of them are walking out. Black women talking about patriarchy dissolving, meaning black women walking out of black men. It's not Black Lives Matters. It's wait a second. These men are going to go up in fraternities, rape and traffic women and their own brothers. And women are supposed to sit there and just Black Lives Matters. It's not that Black lives don't matter, but what I'm getting the vibe is that they are they are taking their presence away from black men's lives. And black men are collapsing. Now it may even arise to white brothers, white women, and doesn't necessarily have to be black. Black. It can also pertain to certain cultures that were severely patriarchal. And women are you know, they're walking out of, basically they're protecting themselves, and that's not, it's a total collapse. The more a person is patriarchal, let's say people have stellium in Capricorn, okay, to some degree can be Leo, but people that are extremely patriarchal, okay, because Capricorn is this hierarchy, this rank. Also Leo, people that would talk about the respect or lack of respect of a woman, or or what she wears, or if she's sensual or not, before they look at if they are rapey. Now, funnily enough, the more internal it is with a man, the more he doesn't appear to be like this um, trafficking mindset. Okay, like a fascist, techno fascist, Nazi trafficker, patriarch mindset. Okay, like the more it's internal, so he could be having some qualities of a good friend, or even some qualities of a good partner, the more he collapses into himself. And also, the more people would believe them in the beginning, but now it's not happening. And it's not happening because they were so occupied with portraying a certain character or telling a certain story. And that could be where somebody ran off, where somebody was promiscuous when they weren't really, where somebody wanted something that they was that it didn't, where somebody was um, doing sex work when they weren't, and that created a reality around the women where they were exposed to the elements of society. So those women not only didn't see it in the eyes where the men was seeing that, they were seeing that as well. If you think like that, then you are a part of a rape, trafficking, Nazi fascist society. Now, here is the thing. A decade ago, Palestinian women were choosing the word Palestinian before woman. Today, after what the world sees as genocide, Mama Taliban's are back in Gaza. That caused the genocide. Women, BIPOC women around the world saw what happens when they choose their nationality before their human rights. I'm going to repeat that. Women around the world saw what happens when they choose their nationality before the women's rights. There is an attempt to portray as if Iran or Israel were betrayed by the worldwide feminists and so. They weren't betrayed by the worldwide feminists. They were betrayed by the treason cults and the Epsteins and the Diddlers. Because those people that hold global organizations are diddlers, even if they show up as a woman, then they were betrayed. That's because there's human trafficking all the way up to these organizations. And because the trafficking cults blackmail them. Okay? And black women understand that they've been through that. They've been through the promises that Black Life Matters also means black woman's life matters. And it's so that it doesn't. They saw that Black Life Matters meant black men's life matter. Those that are already in the fraternities, those that are already in the secret societies, that they rape one another as children. But it definitely did not mean black women life matters. Because to get into the ticket up society, and I don't say white society, because the heck do I know what happened before slavery that could have allowed it if they acted like that. But the ticket up the ladder was children raping children. And that was a feminization ritual. Black women get it. And they withdraw their presence from that. They can't say it in so many words. They're not going to talk shit about men. They're just protecting their feminine energy. And, you know, black women usually have way more elegance than me and my Mercury Aries has. They are going to talk about their feminine energy, protecting their feminine energy, um, protecting their calmness, their nervous system, their peace, and so on and so forth. Everything that fraternities do not honor, they look at the feminine as something to rape, to molest, to enslave, to exploit. So of course, black women are going to talk shit about black men. They are just going to say, I, as a woman, I'm not blaming men, but I'm protecting my energy. Now I'm getting that this pertains to other, both maybe black women, but also other types of women that were going about for several years the same route and are saying, I'm protecting my energy. I wish all the best to that person or whatnot. Yeah, I walked out. It was also COVID. It was also this. It was also that. They're not there to hunt heads. They're not there to blame. They're not there to seek out the man. And that's exactly where everything collapses. Like you could be the best friend of a decade. You act up, bye, and you better hope that she has a safe and free place to stay. Okay, Venus is about to cross through the minute. There it is. There it is. Venus conjoining Pluto. Now, the world at large. Okay. The second part of that energy reading had to do with something that's to do with sperm count. Now, both men and women have been both injected with, whether it was through Pfizer or not, whether it was through the food or through supposed vaccine. Okay? Even before COVID, there are things causing infertility in the food. Many things. And they usually generate cancer, caries, and yeast and fungal infections. More, you know. So, just as disclaimer, I'm not exempt from that reality. I still need to treat my teeth. I'm dealing with my toenails or the structure of the bones in my feet. Like, okay, so just a little bit of a disclaimer about that. That being said, the policies that created that came from very patriarchal fraternities, and that costs the world fertility rates, sperm counts, um, and that total lack of awareness paramounts because, particularly, how should I say that? Power abuse dissolves, and that literally translates to sperm count. Okay, for example, being a woman that protects her feminine energy, protects her peace, was almost nearly impossible, particularly not in academia, particularly not just when women were looking at the body mind question. The more the more a woman made progress, even unbeknownst to her, in her life, the more she was exposed to what was previously the moldy, fungal, ritual inaugurations that were there. And that meant, and no, nobody thinks that what it looks like somebody trying to traffic somebody, ritually abuse and assassin them, is inauguration. Shout out to Light for that, because that completely, and until you see what happened, what was those ritual abuse things, is, oh, that was, wait a second, that person was hurt from that person and that person. Okay, that was 1996 during the White March. Okay, that person has a son of 1800 Netherlands chart. So they would, as child, would be prospective candidate. Um, and that person was it that was his that was his Saturn return that they were getting inaugurating. That allowed them to take a certain position, and they were horribly raped and had to rape. Okay, now what policies can come out of that? Hardly anything. The person was raped. They had to commit an offense, had to be recorded. That was the whole point. And they can easily be extorted away from any change that they wanted to make in the world. Now, women see that, women tend to that in their own perspectives, because anything that we want to change requires by now a change of policy. It's gotten to infiltrating the government so much that it requires what seems like a new country. And so and here's the thing. It's not about replacing, it's about changing those extortion cults reality. So we can have actual now. It's not even about representation, because if the representation is of corrupt culture, then that will have its backlashes. Okay, in a society of apartheid, they cannot be democracy. Why did it take Nelson Mandela 28 years in prison to become basically a democratic government? There was monarchy back then because of South African people. And the fact that he saw it. He didn't go, oh, the white oppressors. He said, okay, what do we need to change in our society? Which was bloodline segregation. Okay, that was what they needed to change about their society. That's Now, why does it matter to look at those things? Because in a corrupt culture, you cannot have a representative democratic regime or anything of that sort. We can talk about lobbying, we can talk about finance, we can talk about all these things, and we're right to talk about them. But when that permeates to the culture, then the fundamental changes are way bigger. And those that try to make it permeate to the culture, they set themselves up. That's what black women see. The patriarchy is falling, is collapsing from within. And it's crescendos of waves because now they think that white women are more gullible. What does knitting cult lady do? She came from a cult, was the children of God, then she joined the military. Then she decultifies the military. Because that's threatening the security of United States. No, not blue pill, red pill. Now, of course, women of color saw it the first. maybe they thought in the beginning that to work with their fellow men would create liberation, and it got some results, but the black woman was completely. If I'm seeing women of indigenous origins or BIPOC origins at 50 having to share a house with a younger family that treats them as one of the children, okay, not in a bad way, it's just that person who owns an estate, they see a resident or a tenant as another one of the children. It doesn't work. Okay, it's not about people being bad or malicious. It's like people don't have a concept for a tenant other than a child. And I'm telling you, it's not a bad thing because it's not supposed to be otherwise. And then what happened? Women that completely have zero mafia background, zero secret society background. Okay? Women that came from doing whatever they wanted to do in life, okay, whether it was to study or to work or to develop their own business. And that enclosure created a fundamental point of interference where these women are saying, okay, this thing where they bury a child, living child with dead child on a property, and they consolidate well that way and rare earth minerals, that thing needs to go. We need housing. All those trafficking estates, how many? 50 estates. This lady ran 50 estates. What it means another lady with a 50 more, 50 more, 50 more, 50. All of that can be public housing. That thing has to go. Now, each and every one of the ladies and the children in those states, they need their own housing. And it arises from women that have zero background in those areas, but they were, okay, academic was trafficking, work was trafficking, developing a business was trafficking, living in an apartment was trafficking. Okay, khalas with this trafficking. Googleplex women deal with those issues. All of them horse. Behind, and here is the thing, those women have faces, and they have names, and they have a voice. And it's nothing like the image that was portrayed and was maintained by torturing them to the point of dissociation so that they could mind control. And the men that did that, that participated in that, and the women that participated in harming women in those ways, they are getting a fall from grace. Because now everybody deals with, people cannot live in a building without something to do with trafficking. And it's trafficking, it's not sex work. A cafe cannot be open, being a business, without being an informant. Now, what does it mean to be an informant? To target people to try to traffic them. on who can they do something that later Googleplex people dealing with that. So what's the dumb fuckery? Yeah, the cafe. Yeah, they hurt a person in there. I don't know if they hurt them but in this place or another place, but they're trafficking there. This is a trafficking place. It's not a business. They probably rape their employees. Hey, it harmed the businesses of these women entrepreneurs. Venus, Pluto, sextile, and Lilith here. The women that went along with the traffickers are not seen as traditional. They're seen as Ghislaine Maxwell. And here's the thing, because those circles tend, just like, if I'm a feminist, I will see in the algorithm the relevant, okay, I would see the relevant type of videos. Those people that were red pilled or I don't know what, they would be surrounded with their own conglomerate. And it causes their downfall because the world was moving a certain trajectory for a reason. And if they idealize the past, what was the past? Women don't poison the husband like they used to. That was the past. Those who fantasize about slavery and masters, okay? Not judging anybody's, but they need to understand that this is not a reality. They need to understand that this is something you can only celebrate safe, sane, and consensually with people, adult people that are into that. In those circles, that's okay. Outside of those circles, they would become mass anonymous graves. Definitely not to try to decide for another. You want to be the patriarch? Look for a lady that's into that. Discuss, communicate. You take the most incompatible and you try to put them in a certain rubric, knowing it would explode on you in a little way. What is done when people talk about trafficking? What is done in all these trafficking places that they call sex work? They collect information. Why they collect information? To assassinate men. So that if you work, I don't know, academic researcher in forestry, you would be blackmailed to come up with theory that says, oh, we need to burn the entire forest, not part of the trees, in order to reforest the place. Oh, actually having a 15-minute city within a forest is actually causing the ecosystem to be better. And you're gonna do it because they have picture of you raping a child. Sex trafficking goes hand in hand with everything is a whore. Which means that you're not gonna be LGBTQ. You're not gonna be able to be LGBTQ. You're gonna need to be a family man with a woman that at any moment can poison you while you're being extorted to be assassinated. And in any case, that woman, to protect herself, she would have to go with those people that say that they protect women. Who are the people that say they protect women? Organized crime. They traffic the women, but they knock at the door when she leaves your house. They knock at the door to say, "Hey, hey, she's peeing in her pants." Opening the door, what's happening? Nothing. Don't worry. We protect you. Anybody comes to so much as touch you, we protect you. And they traffic women at the other side. So what's she gonna do if her husband act up? Well, she's gonna have to turn to someone. And as long as she keeps the widow, as long as she wears black, as long as she conforms with being the weeping widow, everything fine. She could poison her husband. Now all they have to do, yes, he was going to horse. The same people that made him believe that this is okay, they create this courtesan division because they make money by everyone. The woman is going to show how to steal her husband's money. If she doesn't have a bank account, she will need to steal her husband's money. Who's going to show her how to do it? Somebody will protect her. What she need to steal? Because she need the poison. Now, anyway, if that man being to sex workers, he is being assassin. Is being blackmailed. It ain't being exposed. He'll say one thing that actually is, let's say, forestry, that actually is against killing the forests or cutting illegal trees. One thing, yeah, the husband, look, he got pictures, he was with this, of it, that, of it, that. But I can't divorce, what will I do with it? Don't worry, he can divorce, but he doesn't have to stay alive. What, are you going to live all your life with a man who's abusive? That's the old world that the feminists are wanting out of for everyone. We don't want to poison our husbands, which both of us were not really married because we wanted to be. We do not want to assassinate you, fellow men. Make sure women have a home safe and free. Because if you voted out women's rights, it's gonna come for you. It's not gonna come for you. It's gonna come for you until you are an anonymous grave. That was the Great War. And it's bigger because everywhere around, all the women, indigenous women, white women, they see what's the core of the issue, the fraternities. Boys raped boys, and they raped them and they ritually abused them and called them whores. Then they did that to women. Women were forced to be with their sons in breeding farms. Now here is what happens. Every man like that, the more patriarchal he is, the more he's going to expose himself, because the more he's deprived of actual connection that is not rapey or patriarchal, which unfortunately creates, the more he becomes obsessed with those women that walked out to protect their energy. Even years ago. Because because the feminist was the only woman who understood him. The feminist was the only woman who understood, wait a second, if I live as a tenant and somebody built this house, they're attached to this house because they built this house. They want things to be in their way. It's reasonable. But I need to have my own housing. And I need to have my own income. Is not to do with this rape-based society. And to be with me, a man has to honor my non-erotic self, my child self, my adult self, my erotic self, but always to respect my boundaries and always to respect me. If they think that anything that is a woman is a whore, that anything that is sensual is a whore, that not having a clue about withdrawn consent, and only using those things as when they learn about them as bait, that's not husband material. Now, here is the thing. If they would not push these women to a corner, they would go about, you know, yesterday I was walking outside in the city, in the garden, and I sit for a couple of minutes, there's a cat, and I pet the cat, and he's so happy, and so on. Women, now, it's not, is it the ideal form of life to women to be cat ladies? Of course not. But will they not prefer to be cat ladies than to try to? I don't see why try to change a man that he wants to be this way and this thinking. Okay, fine. But it's not for my feminine energy to be with that. If I want to connect with my feminine energy, I cannot be with that. And to go all the way to spiritual abuse, psychic abuse, techno-psychic abuse, it is forcing women to address that issue, not in a way of, wait a second, I can remove my presence, I can nourish my own space, my own life. But that was deprived. But somebody so persecuted inside their own body. You want to tell me that the secret societies will not be completely destroyed? Because this is their experience in their bodies. This is why they do that. And then as they were forced to face that issue, because every time there's something new. In the past it was, I don't know, a violent relationship, women somehow found shelter, saved their life, then it was technological. Then it was spiritual. All this progress and no feminism, like all this progress and not actually having sane, safe relations with one another? And then it forces women to say, wait a second, that's not a husband material. We would never speak bad about men. We would never we would say, okay, if it's not something that I see myself sharing a life with, I remove my presence. I don't judge, I just remove my presence. I'm a human being, I have my own shit too. And women were forced to address that because they weren't even allowed that. Where is this slavery and master, a hierarchical feminization, is humiliation of the where is it coming from? Secret societies. What do they control? Resources. Making everything under the guise of his ecosystemic destroy the earth. Why were they persecuted? Because of that. I talked about the fact in Israel, 7th of October, the Hasbara was saying, oh, the global feminism betrayed women, inside the country. Enough with the Templars. That was the voice that came within Israel. Enough with these wars. Enough with this ritual abuse. Months before, lady watchers, young women at 17, 19, 20. So, there's something at the fence. Why weren't they protecting? Why were they trafficking women within those places that were supposed to defend for what is war? Where's the act of abolishing rape? Why were they raping towards women within Israel? So who did the war? The rapists. And why juxtaposed to this war all this saying about, oh yeah, women should be more modest, we should turn to God. Don't rape, don't traffic. That is what exposed the trafficking houses in Bnei Brak, in Jerusalem. When people try to make a people forcibly religious, then they will expose everything that religion did that is absolutely not divine. We have military, okay, American military women talking about decultifying America. Because the army will not win in cult-like mindset. Israel's 1973 was after the smugness of 67. And now it was 7th October and they talk about the bigger Israel imperial. And I said, any army and regime that decides to abolish rape, abolish trafficking, abolish extortion call, tomorrow has the entire earth. But those imperial aspirations are going to bring exposure of all the dark things. All the dark things, everything dark that was done. Even when I look at on a municipal level, a city brings students, brings high tech, brings, I don't know, brings new people. Okay, some of these new people stay. Then they want to make it organized crime like what was before with Pluto ingressed to Capricorn. Now, normally, those new people say, okay, we leave. But it's global. And so, people that had zero affinity with all of those things, what happened? What did I say in the previous video? A lady in Israeli North opened a business. They put a bottle with gasoline. She was supposed to get the nuance and seek the person. Nothing. She took that bottle to the city center and said, enough with that protection. Everybody was supporting her. Nobody wants to live in fear. Those old ways of their honor, their respect. What honor? You rape women, you traffic women, you ritually abuse children. What honor? Respect honor, and you will have honor. Honor dignity, and you will have a dignity. If you rape, you don't honor dignity. And women don't want to be with the rapist. It's not intimacy, it's not lovemaking, it's not communication. They don't want to be with that. All those weird rituals trying to siphon it, or I don't know what. Nobody wants to be around that. And here is the thing. If they were finding the people that want to be with them like that, those women would never have to speak. They'd be living their lives. Unbothered. But to try to make it so that a woman cannot live unbothered, she has to speak now. And then women speak, and do they like what women say about that? No. Because when you've persecuted a woman, then eventually she says, okay, this is not husband material. Persecutor is not husband material. Rapist, trafficker, whore not whore is not making love. Is not a man that can make love to woman and honor her. And it's not what the woman is, what the woman is. Go be with other women. Those worldviews that are only circumventing against around power. Okay, now power is a part of our life, but if only they see power, it's not that they don't need connection. In fact, it is because they're deprived of actual connection that they feel powerless and try to overpower women that are not playing power games with them. And then they become obsessed because they've never seen that, but they also don't stand in the standard of that. It's not about shame and blame. When I was, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, when I was looking and seeing, okay, I don't get, how should I say that? The interactions with men don't feel good to me. So I didn't go and say men are, men are, men are. I said, okay, maybe this man was not compatible. Let's try to see what other people. Then I see communities are very weird. I said, okay, maybe I was exposed to the wrong people. And then I begin to do the shadow work of many women, connect with the feminine energy, learning about the communication skills, how men think. And I'm like, well, a part of that is relevant. And a part of that is, well, I don't see myself orgasming with those teachings. And sex is a part of relationship. I'm not a casual sex person. And like many women, I went through, and here is what I get is many women, they went through basically doing the shadow work, connecting with the feminine, allowing themselves to be receptive, allowing themselves to be loved. Amazing. Doesn't work with extortion trafficking cult. Doesn't work with Chor, Madonna, and Madonna is a Chor. Not sexy. And also, all of these is usually juxtaposed to beauty standards that are from. I'm not looking for the journal relationships. And many women, they understand my peace, my femininity, because we went through this shadow work. Yes, my peace, my femininity, being a woman is so important. It's so important that these men, if they take away, then I walk out. Don't forget, we're also taught as women not to chase a man, not to try to change a man. So we went through the shadow work of not doing things that, let's say, women that would try to make of a man what they want him to be. not really seeing where he is and where he stands. We went to the shadow work. We worked on our own issues. We walked out. We need to have a home.